Welcome everybody. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's always such a pleasure to have you here. So thank you so much. We're getting on our way here, letting some people get on. As this goes, people always jump on, through the process. But you guys, thank you so much for spending your Saturday with us. I always count it as an honor. You guys know it's all about your state of mind and your state of heart. And if you're here, I want you to know there are no passive participants. So if we can see you, we will call on you, and we expect you to say what you need to say because we think each and every one of you has something very important to add, something important to say. And you'll have an opportunity to do that. And anytime you want to, you can pose a question over in the comment section, in the chat section. And at the end of each presentation, each person that's speaking, each speaker will do their best to get to your questions. If they do not get to your question, we'll copy and paste that and send it to the presenter and ask them to get that back to you. But we value what you have to say. So again, be active, take notes. Guys, there's a reason that you're here. And what I've found from over 30 years of being in this business and having the privilege to, touch lives all around the world is that, people are looking to grow. They're looking to succeed. They want to deal with what's confronting them. They want to get their hearts in the right place. And I find most people have that desire. They have that heart, or you wouldn't be here. So remember, you'll get out of this process what you put into it. And I hope you get a lot. Thank you again. And, that's why we're here. We're here for you. We're here because, the pandemic happened and it did what it did to all of us. It shut down what we were able to do it live in person with our Undisputed Mastery events. And it created this process for us where we thought, man, we cannot hold on to all this awesome. We want to make sure that we share. One of my main values is connecting people together. And the people who I get to coach and are sometimes coaching me, the people that I know, they have so many wonderful things to offer. And guys, I just said, we can't keep this to ourselves. We've got to get it out there. And so that's what this is all about. It's about giving all of those people access to say what they need to say and share their amazing value. And if you're like me, you will just love it. It's a fantastic thing. And so we'll start off right now. Just remember that you can always pose the comments. And if there's any technical difficulties, please let us know. This is 100% free. All of the speakers here are doing it just because they love giving and they love what they do. They fall in love with that. And so it won't be a polished production. Please forgive us up front for that. It's just our way of sharing, all the good stuff that we just can't keep to ourselves. But let me tell you guys, that doesn't mean that the speakers are low quality. They are some of the best. I've been doing this for a long time, worked with the best like Tony Robbins, and the people speaking here, they're top notch with a wide variety of topics. And I think that you'll love what you find. And any way that any of us can serve you going forward, we'll do that. Whether it's through coaching or just questions or just connecting, that this is what I do. This is what we do. We love helping. So let me ask you a question up front. I told you guys this was active participation. And so I want some answers back from you, if you will. Please don't just sit there on a nod on a log, right? Engage your brain, because remember, motion and emotion are directly connected. In fact, emotion is just motion with an E on the front of it. So please give yourself permission to get moving, to get busy, to get participating, and you'll get a lot more out of this. And make your investment of your wonderful time worth it. So here's your first question. Remember, be here, be active. First question is all about leadership. And you think about it, whether, a lot of what I do is connecting with other men and helping them with their process of being better men and understanding what that means within social and relational and business context. But it's not just about men. Leadership is about all of us. Because whether you realize it or not, you are actively influencing people right now with what you're doing. And it's not all about us. Even though we want to get our good stuff, we want to heal, we want to grow, guys, it's not all about us. It's also about who else we are influencing. So considering that, let me ask you, what are we failing at as leaders? What do you guys think? How has leadership, just as you see it, whether it's masculinity in men, feel free to go there, guys. We want you to get your money's worth. Don't feel like you have to be PC either. We're all adults. May not mean that I'll agree with you, and that's okay. If you're on here, we want to make sure that that's the case as well. But the whole idea is that we want you to be able to see what you need, whatever it means. Can everybody see me? Yeah, awesome, good, excellent. And so what are some of the failings of leadership? What do you guys say? Go ahead and put some of that in the comments right here. And I'm stubborn enough, I'll just pause until I see some answers. What do you guys think? Let me get my chats on here. I don't see any chats yet to everybody. I'll type up the question. Okay, I see one here. Thank you so much. Failings of leadership, just stepping into the role. And that is by, please forgive me, I'll do my best to say your name correctly. Forgive me if I get it wrong. Laurette, did I say that correct?
Yeah, you got it right.
Excellent. Thank you, Laurette. So Laurette said, where did it go? Just stepping into the role. So that would be making sure, my understanding of what you're asking, Laurette, making sure that we are willing, because willingness is a huge part of any type of formula of leadership. We must be willing to play that role. That's right. Whether it is helping a couple, let's say it's a marriage or whoever it is, or a business leader, one of the first qualifications is you have to be willing. Well said. Mr. Colin Davis, Mr. Davis, I see you there, brother. Hey, what happened to the beard? Look good. They got that boyish look going on again. Mr. Collins said vulnerability and truly listening. That's true. That's true. And we have a speaker on tonight, one of my favorite people in all the world. He and his crew, all the way over in Kentucky, a guy named Greg Pestinger. His topic last time was vulnerability, a superpower. And we've got all this on YouTube, on the YouTubes, as this old guy calls them. We got this on the YouTubes from last time. You can go on there and check that out. He and his guys really did a great job talking about how vulnerability is a necessity. One of my favorite quotes from some of the guys I get to coach with, guys like Navy SEALs and Special Forces guys, they say this, we must be vulnerable together before we can be invulnerable, or we must be vulnerable with each other before we can be invulnerable together. We must be vulnerable with each other before we can be invulnerable together. And think about that from a context like a Navy SEAL, tough, the super best at what they do. They have to be vulnerable. So I like what you had to say there, Colin. That is a fantastic thing, vulnerability. And what's more vulnerable really than giving yourself in the presence to be able to listen? That's truly listen, not listen just to respond, not listen just to rebuttal. How many times have I done that? I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I got to say this. Oh, wait a minute. That's not really listening, is it? Being able to really listen is listen to understand. That's huge. Mr. Ron Drews, also a fantastic speaker on today. Guys, breath work. You can see his YouTube video from last time. Really, you got to get on that. Breathing will change your life. Ron said he's a breath coach, awesome Hollywood producer guy. Hit him up if you're an actor. He can hook you up. Listening without reacting. Yeah, along the same lines there, Ron. That's it, brother. Yeah. Being able to stay in our place in the moment where we're in control of our own state, right? Our own emotions, to really listen with love and connection rather than trying to make it about us. The guys over at the P3 Peak Performance Coaching, Greg and his crew, said ego. Yeah, man. My own sense of pride can get in the way, which is really just fancy psychological terms for fear a lot of times, right? Fear and significance go hand in hand. Ryan, thank you, Ryan, said ownership. Taking ownership of yourself and your own state and your own outcomes. So many times we have agendas that are so hidden that we don't even realize them, right? So to check that and to do work on that up front is so important. Matt said, welcome, Matt. He said, not getting out of your people way, not getting out of your people way. So yeah, just not getting out of the way of the people that you're leading. This is in the context of leadership. That's right. One of the biggest things I see when I coach people, especially like business leaders, is that they want their people to do an outstanding job. They train them, they invest in them, but they don't get out of their way. And they don't create the context of empowerment so that they can do what they need to do. That's so well said. Laurette again said, the definition of leadership is be a leader. It's a belief in self, that you have the right answers, that you have a theory to lead, a mission worth sharing with others. Well said, Laurette. Well said again. And Shara said, letting your ego get in the way of listening, respect, problem solving, listening, etc. Sorry, I'm driving at the moment. Be safe, Shara. Be safe, please, please. And then again, the awesome dudes over at P3 Peak Performance said, need to be right instead of doing right. That's right. You know, when people have this idea that I've got to be right, let me tell you, man, that's gotten in my way so much of the time. It has. I've, you know, being Dr. Keith Waggoner, that's one of my personas that I don't want to be, is that guy that just has to be right for my own sake of self-preservation. So you guys can see it. Thank you for your responses there. This is good active participation. This is big. This is huge, guys. We have had plenty of failures in our own sense of leadership throughout all of our lives. And isn't it something, my wife and I, who's the beautiful Adrienne, you can see her on here right now. Her screen looks like it's frozen, and she's going to love that face she's making. You're unfrozen now, sweetheart. She and I were having a conversation just this morning about leadership and how even as men, and I was very interested in her perspective as a lady, how us guys have dropped the ball, and how so much of the reactions in our society and in our media is in response to that, to failures of leadership. Now, there is no perfect leadership. We'll have to understand that. But how guys step up to lead in a crisis is huge. It's huge. And so we talked about some of the problems. Now let me ask you guys, what are some of the ways that leaders are really doing well? What does it look like to have great leadership? What will that be like? Can you guys tell me? What is it like to have great leadership? You guys, please leave some comments over here. When we are succeeding at leadership, what does that look like? You guys tell me. What do you think? What are some of these things, guys? Hey, guys, am I freezing in your screens? Am I freezing up? Can you guys hear me right now? You got me? Okay, good, good. Adrienne keeps telling me that I'm freezing. Sweetheart, I don't know if I am. It may be your computer that's freezing up, darling. But if I am freezing, you guys just leave me a message, right? We don't want to play freeze tag here. Right, what do you guys think? What are some ways that we succeed in leadership? So I've got some things over here. Let's see, what did you guys put here? All right, Adrienne put consistency, integrity, and high standards. Yeah, fantastic. That's how we succeed. Well said, well said. And let's see here. What else do we have? It also says, when we teach, train, and get out of the way, yes. Ryan said results. Yeah, when we are results focused, for sure. Greg said vulnerable, empathetic, have a plan. Yes, so important. And lead the team to the promised land. That's right. We have to be careful about promises. You ever heard this phrase, under promise, over deliver? That's one of the things that Tony Robbins has said over and over and over that I really have gleaned from. Nathan Kirby Maximus said, clearly painting the picture for others to see the end goal with our vision. That's so true. And Paul said, sharing wins and mistakes. Yeah, guys, so we can see that. Now you think about it, what gets in the way of that? Honestly, we can see how leadership is failing, right? We can see what at least our picture of great leadership should be doing and what they do when they are consistently doing a good job of those things that you guys just said. And Ron just said, being consistent in messaging and actions, thus providing a safe place in an unsafe time. Oh yeah, so important, right? In just a moment, Coach Kirby, Nathan Maximus Kirby will be talking to us about leadership in crisis. And I'll talk more about Nathan in just a moment. Mitch just said, establishing clarity and vision, displaying resilience, creating the environment for others to succeed and having unwavering belief in self. Absolutely, right? I've got a company called Principled Savage, a guy named Harley Elmore. He'll be presenting today. He's an awesome dude, trains Navy SEALs. I mean, really one of the nicest, wonderful, but most dangerous men you'll ever meet. One of the ideas of being a principled savage is that you stand on principles. You know what's right. You believe what's right. You have love in your heart, because that's the true warrior ethos. It's not to fight, not to war, but it's to love and to protect what you love. That's the idea of the true warrior. But in order to be that true warrior, you have to have an ability that you constantly train. And that's why we call it principled. You know what's right. Savage, having a real capability so you don't hesitate in the moment, having that real unwavering belief in yourself. Ben said confidence. Yeah, Ben, right on. A plan. That's right. A plan, and understanding what plan A is, right? Your sense of prioritization. I like it. So these are the things that help us succeed. So let me ask you guys, what gets in the way? Really, for real. Now let's put ourselves in that context. We know how leaders fail. We know the pathway and the formula of success. But let me ask you, what can really get in the way, guys? What gets in the way? Now think about you. Now I'll go first. You guys mind if I'm a little bit vulnerable with you? Is that okay? Is that all right? Thumbs up. Good. And I tell you this not to impress you, but just to impress upon you. We all wrestle. Every single person. And, I do this for a living. I do this every day, lead people and listen to people. I love what I do as a coach and as an entrepreneur. My wife and I, do about 10 different companies together, part or in whole, where we lead or own. One of the things that I've discovered about myself is that in times that I have failed have been the times when I've focused more on myself, and I've been hypercritical about myself rather than having a clear vision of the mission. That's so important. And when I've done that, when I've become defensive or protective, or it's what I call playing to lose rather than playing to win, meaning that I just want to hang on to what I've got, and it becomes more about me than serving other people or making sure that the team is on task and headed in the right direction, things begin to fail. That's what I've seen. What have you guys seen in your own personal experience? Maybe where you are willing to be vulnerable about how maybe you've blown it. You've dropped the ball in your leadership. Nathan said fear, doubt, imposter syndrome, lack of confidence. Oh, yeah. Well said, Nathan. Yeah. Have you guys ever felt that? Imposter syndrome? That idea like, who am I? Right? What am I? I don't deserve this. I don't belong here. What? I'm full of it. I mean, you can fill in the blank. I've felt all of that, probably just this morning in some ways. There's a verse in the Old Testament Bible that I love, and it says that the wolf is always crouching at the door. It seeks to devour you. It wants to eat you alive. That never goes away. Adrienne said, too intense, overplaying my hand. Oh, yeah, well said, hon. Yeah, being too intense, right? Sometimes people, when they're just tired and they need to rest, they quit instead of just resting. We have to understand the ideas of what it means to be able to say yes and no. And that's a fantastic thing that I love that I teach is the idea of prioritization. I call it yes management. One of my favorite quotes from Warren Buffett is, the most successful people in the world say no to almost everything. But sometimes with the fear of missing out, we call that FOMO or imposter syndrome. Sometimes, maybe we say yes to too much, and we say yes to small yeses instead of saying yes to the big yeses. I can't tell you how many times I've said yes to stuff and I've missed out on some of the most important stuff in life, like my wife's heart, being present with her, because now I'm exhausted at the end of the day and I have nothing left to give. And then I can get defensive and entitled and think, oh, wait a minute, don't you know how hard I'm working? Give me a break. I don't know if you've ever felt anything like that, guys, but I have. Yeah, and I've dropped the ball on that over and over and over. The most precious thing. I traded for something that, won't count in the end. I don't know if you guys know this, but I've also been a minister and a counselor. I'm a PhD psychologist and a marriage and family therapist. I've been with lots of people. It's been wonderful. Sometimes I've been with people towards the end of their life. We call that on their deathbeds. And not yet once have I ever been with somebody on their deathbed where they said they wish they'd worked more. I've never heard that from someone in their last moments, ever. I don't know if you have, but I sure haven't. I've never heard them talk about, their best TV shows at the end of their life. Never. They usually talk about the things that really mattered. So if you guys will, before we get into this next segment, if I may lead you here, let's think about that. I celebrated my 50th birthday this year, back in January, and some of my closest friends came to my house and camped in my backyard in the freezing temperatures. And it was all in an effort to kind of strip away the unessentials and focus on the second half of my life. That's right. I plan to live to 100. And we created something kind of in a Native American style. We created something called a death song, which in a warrior's ethos is this idea of how well do you want to die? What does it mean to die well? And I can tell you, as I've spent this weekend praying and fasting and with these guys out, and it wasn't that bad. It was probably about 20 degrees. Wasn't it, Greg and Nathan? They were both there with me. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. It was uncomfortable, but it was just enough to strip away some of the unessentials so they could really start to focus. Nathan said terrible. Yeah, Big Nathan, I think your hands got cold, didn't it? Strip away some of the unessentials so that we could focus on what really is important. And I can tell you the way it impacted me was thinking about that. Because if you can die well and picture the moment of your death about what looking back on your life you'd want that to be, it sure helps you understand a little bit more about what's important. And I can tell you the things that weren't important was working too much or money. Those things didn't even come up in my mind as I was thinking about reflecting back on my life. As they say, your life flashes before your eyes. I wasn't even thinking about that, man. I was thinking about my wife, my children, the people's lives that I touched. That's what mattered, right? Now, I was thinking also about work, because work, one of the things I do, just because I love doing it, is coaching people. And I was thinking about them and what a privilege it is for me to be there with them and be able to help them in their lives. And I was thinking about their stories and their death songs. But it really had an impact on me. And it's something that I want to capture and I want to go forward. And so let me ask you, before we jump into our next segment about leadership, Coach Nathan is up next. But let me ask you, if you can glean something from this seminar, this Zoom event, as we call it, and if it could help you live your life so that in your last moments of life, because new statistics on life and death, 1 out of 1 people die, guys. We don't get out of this world alive, right? Every one of us will come to that moment. And we spend a lot of time just denying that, not focusing on that, but it is a reality. And through the pandemic, I don't know if you've experienced loss, but I sure have. I have a sister right now who's 58 years old that had strokes because of COVID, and she'll never be the same. She's lost her young life and she won't recover. And I've heard stories after stories after stories of how people have died. And it doesn't have to be COVID. It could be the flu. That's still a real thing. It could be a car accident. That's still the real thing. It could be a heart attack. It could be so many things, guys. We're not guaranteed 1 single second on this life. Every second is a gift. So let me ask you, if you could write your own death song, and if this event, the thing we're doing right now, what you're watching, what you're talking about, if you could have it help you live your life a little better, let me ask you, what would you be willing to receive from this event to help that happen? Would you be willing to listen about your own perspective of priorities and leadership? Because remember, you are an influencer. Everyone is. Would you be willing to consider ways of you making your life better? Whether it's breathing or taking a look at your business or doing a threat assessment, whether it's cybersecurity or whatever it is, would you be willing to really take a look at this in your life? If you're in business, would you be willing to take a look at the bottom line of your motivation and how to make yourself more prosperous because you are an influencer so that you can also help other people? If that's something you're willing to do, then this weekend can be a pivotal moment. because every moment is what we make of it. It's what we're willing to receive. When I coach couples, I have this little language that I teach them. It's called love or not love. It's this idea that even though I may be loving you the very best way I can, you still must be willing to say, yes, thank you very much, and receive it as a gift. Sometimes even my best attempts at love, now I have no delusions, even my best attempts at loving my wife are still flawed. They're not perfect. But even with my best attempts to love my wife, she must be willing to say, yes, Keith, thank you. I will receive this. So what I'm asking you right now, just like I coach couples, is to receive the value of this event and simply say yes to that. If you'll do that, guys, your own brain, your own creativity will spark and it'll kick in. And you'll be in a place where you'll do great things because of your investment of your precious commodity time. And then remember, it's not just about time, it's also about energy. And it's what you pour energy into, that's what'll grow. Because if I focus on how miserable I am, guess what I'll get more of? I'll get more misery. But if I focus on, yes, what a gift, you'll get more of that too. So keep that in mind. That's how wonderful and powerful